Okay, this first question is for me, and it says, what should be done with the sewer ordinance? This gets a little tricky, and I don't know all the specific details of what can and cannot be done with an ordinance that's currently on the books. In the ordinance, what it says is properties that are abutting 175, whether they're east or west of 175, but they're in contact with 175, they're going to be affected by sewer and water. My first thought, my basic intent would be to overturn that ordinance and turn it and put us in a position where any, and I emphasize again, any project that would incorporate municipal sewer and water would have to be subjected to a village-wide referendum. And when I say that, and I'm not getting concise here, there needs to be time to convey all of the information to everybody that's interested within the village. So that, again, like I said, that this doesn't just come up, we have a public hearing in a meeting, and 30 minutes later vote that yes, we're going to approve this, that, or the other thing. People that are interested in, and not everybody can be here every day, every time. There needs to be opportunities for input from the village people, the residents, almost said village people, but no, village residents, to get their input so that a reasonable decision can be made. I want to make one other comment. It was stated that this ordinance will protect 80% of the residents of the village of Richfield. Fine if you're in the 80%, but what do you do if you're in the 20? Who's looking out for you? I want to be there to look out for everybody in the village. Thank you.
The question is, what is your knowledge of the history of the Public Works ordinance and what should be done? I think it started back in 2011 in August. We had a meeting with, I was invited to a meeting. It's where I met Mike Watson and a few other people on the Public Works ordinance. Josh was there, the village administrator was there, the village president was there, and a few of us that were complaining about the ordinance. Okay, what was proposed is basically what you're seeing now. After talking, we wanted a referendum. I wanted a referendum. Mike wanted a referendum, and I can't remember who was all there, but that's not what the village administrator wanted. He wanted to leave the door open to have development in the corridor, the 175, 140, 145 corridor, and bring sewer and water in there. Well, that wasn't acceptable to me, and that was the only thing that, most of the other issues in the ordinance were minor, but we wanted a referendum to come to the people to see if they would bring it in or not. After that, they went back to the board and they tabled it. And then all of a sudden, June the next year, it comes up again, or July, it comes up. I just caught wind of it. I don't know how I caught wind of it. Maybe I seen it in an agenda item or something like that. I knew right what it was. The only way I could get a copy of it is go to the village hall that Monday, and they were going to vote on it on that Thursday night about it. The village newsletter had just come out the week before. Nothing was mentioned in there, and it sailed right through at the meeting. I stood up for public comments and nothing. I think some people on the east side of 175 were there for that meeting, and they protested against the ordinance because they were going to be affected by it. And the village board just zingered through like that. They cut down the amount of money for referendum for any other public works project on it, down to It was a 25, or it was, I can't, the higher number was 0.5% or something like that, and it got cut down to 1/3%. So it was quite a bit savings there, but I still wanted that lower because you could still build a firehouse or police station on $7 million. Maybe not today, but values are going to keep going up every year again, it looks like, so they'll be able to do it without bringing it for a referendum to the people. What should be done? I think it should be with any code change or any large expenditure of money to spend the same kind of time they promoting it as they did with when we became a village. If you notice, there was signs everywhere for this, and they had meetings, 4 or 5 meetings, and this was a major change for Richfield. And I still think if you bring sewer and water, it's going to open Pandora's box, and we're going to have things here that we don't want. And plus, if I like to go, if I forget to lock my door when I go down to the garden, it's fine with me, you know. But you know, and more people get in here, that might change all that. So I just as soon keep the country in Richfield. Thank you.
My question is, what should be a trustee's attitude towards its people? Well, I think as a elected official, we're supposed to do what the people want, get information from the people, and vote on issues that the majority of the people would like, you know. And our board right now seems to listen to the people, know what the people want, and turn around and do 180-degree different decision. So I don't think that's right. And as one of your trustees, I would try to do my best to do what you would like. Thank you.
Okay, I want to get to this one right away. It says I'm on record as approving the ordinance regarding the sewer and water restriction. You objected to the spending threshold of 0.75% is too high. Why did you approve of the ordinance at the July 5th meeting? Okay. First, I didn't approve of the ordinance. Okay. What I said and what I tried to do to amend the ordinance was to set a dollar specific amount. And originally I said $100,000. Now this has to do with public works projects. $100,000 on a public works project is not a lot of money. So what it does is my intent was to force the board into a situation where if they were going to go out on a major public works project, they would have to come to the residents of the village. That was my intent. All right. It was pretty clear, and if you went to the public hearing, after I had said my piece and left the podium, I was done. It wasn't like when a statement was made by a member of the board that rebutted something that I had said that I could come back to the podium. It wasn't a debate situation. So, as a clarification, and whoever asked the question, I'd be happy to talk in further detail about this afterward, but I did not approve it. I was not in favor of it. I was trying to get it to a level, I knew it was going to pass, there was no question, because as residents of the village, you don't get to vote on it. The only way you get to vote on it is by removing the people who put it in place to begin with, so that it can be changed. I was just trying to get it down to a level where it forced the decision back out to the people in referendum form. Now I understand it costs money to do a referendum if you do a referendum that's not in conjunction with another election. And we're all getting voter fatigue. And I understand that. I don't want to have the people of the village of Richfield dragged to the voting booth every other month to vote on some kind of a spending issue. But when it comes to sewer and water, when it comes to major public works projects, you need to have a say. So, thank you.
is, why do you think people would support the existing board? I'm having trouble with this one, but they have the advantage of being in office for a while. Like when this public works ordinance came up, I remember somebody from the audience asked where was about sewer and water, you know, it's gonna cost us, but he knew that that person lived on the west side of 175, and he says, well, there is a referendum required for this, and that's all he said, and the person was happy with it, and that was it. You know, they don't expand on they don't expand on their answers. They're not lying to you, but you gotta just listen very closely what they're saying. Why people would support that, I don't know why. That's all I can say on that. Thank you.
My next question says, would having sewer and water attract development that would add to the tax base and reduce load on homeowners? Well, that's the way it's supposed to work, but in a lot of cases it doesn't, because if the business isn't doing well or fails, then they go out of business and we're left taking over the expenses of the sewer and water that was put there. So it doesn't always work out, you know, the way it is designed to. So that's all I know about that. Thank you.
Kind of like this one. The village says they don't have money for road repair. Why not use the reserve fund? And there's a little more to this. It has to do with the large lot size. And they don't want to have to pay for road repair on the access on the property taxes. Okay. This is the discussion, like I indicated earlier, there's money in the reserve fund that is earmarked for equipment replacement as things wear out and become out of date. You know, computers are a prime example. After 3 years, actually once you bought your computer, it's already obsolete, but you know, that's the way it goes. That's why it's important to determine a line item description of the money that's in the reserve fund and where it's earmarked to be spent. Take that money, whatever that amount is, pick a number. That's $700,000, just to pick a number. And then you want to have 20 to 25% of the budget. So that's, you know, another $500,000 or $700,000. So now you're at $1.5 million. You got 2.5, or you know, some round number like that sitting there. So that leaves you $1 million available to spend. And as I indicated before, there was a study done, a report when Ryan Westling and Jim, what's Jim's last name? Healy. They evaluated all 153 plus or minus miles of road that are the responsibility of the village in the village of Richfield. And they were classified by the condition that those roads were in. To me, that was your road map, no pun intended. Start with your worst roads and fix them. And work your way through the village in an orderly fashion every year. You've got money budgeted for road repair, do it. If the life of a road is supposed to be 40 years and you're back there, if you break it down and say it's 15, at least you go back and chip seal it, or you know, catch it before it deteriorates to the point where you're going to mill the whole thing up and replace it. So yes, you can use a part of the reserve fund. That would be my thought process, in an orderly fashion, starting with the worst roads and working your way through the village till you get caught up. And it shouldn't, not on your property tax bill based on the fact that you happen to be on a corner lot, so you got, you know, 500 feet here and 800 feet there, necessarily. It's just the roads are used by everybody and they affect your property value. If you've got your house up for sale and the road going into your property is rougher than a cob, chances are, people that are looking at it are not gonna be that terribly interested because they're gonna have to repair their car after a few years of running in and out on that road. So, it does have an effect on overall property values in the village, and it needs to be addressed in an orderly fashion. Thank you.
Question is, are multifamily dwellings allowed in Richfield? If not, how can there be a duplex community just north of 175 and Hubertus Road, on 175 and Hubertus Road? Okay, this is one of those, when we were a town, duplex lots were taboo. Okay, now we became a village, and that added the place for duplex lots. So now we can have a duplex. It's allowed in the village. This is what I said. You have to be very careful how you live, how the village board talks to you. Question was about that too, and he says, as long as Jefford said, as long as we're a village, I don't remember anything about this about not having a duplex. Well, he was true. It's true. When we became the village, the ordinances changed enough that they would allow duplex lots. As a town, we just didn't allow them. There are a few out there. Those are non-conforming, but I think those were done in the 50s or something, or however that was done. But yes, now Richfield can have duplexes. Thank you.
Do you believe that unnecessary state highway projects such as Highway 164 and Highway 175 should be canceled immediately, and the money instead be used to pay for local road repair, which would provide property tax relief as well? Well, I'm not sure if we can cancel them immediately. 164 is somewhat on hold anyway. 175 I'm not sure about, but if we could, I think it would be a good thing to get some of that money back from the state, fix our own local roads, and put some improvements into both of them other highway projects, and still then keep our taxes lower, because we wouldn't be dumping all that money into the state and the state roads. Thank you.
Amen.
I don't want to be real glib with this one, but it says, how would you prevent businesses from coming into our community along the 4145 and Highway 175 corridor? Well, one of the things that could easily be done is to take them and show them the conditions of the businesses that have tried to develop in that area. I think we're probably on our second or third hardware store at 175 in Hubertus Road. If you go up by the Sawmill Restaurant, I think it's the Hawks View little strip mall development in there. I haven't been past it recently, but the last I knew there was only the bank in there. All the remaining spaces in that development are empty. If you go, and it's actually, you know, it's in the town of Lisbon, but it's at 164 in Kew. There's another little strip mall development in there, and it's not full. So if you don't provide them the utilities, if you restrict the utilities and you're not going to bring in a wet industry, you're going to be on either holding tank or you're going to be on septic, whatever that happens to be, and you're going to be on your own well, then it's probably going to deter them from coming in. So depending on what legislatively we are required to allow within the village, you can do your best to make it difficult for businesses, because you really want to. If you're like me, I mean, Jerome lived here forever, so he's got a head start on me. I came out here because when I lived in Milwaukee, if I walked out into my backyard, I had 10 sets of eyeballs on me, and they weren't from my family. They were my neighbors, and they always wanted to talk. And where I am now, I can walk around outside, and My neighbors are wonderful, and they're away from me, and I don't bother them, and they don't bother me, but I like them. I mean, they're great neighbors, don't get me wrong. Mike's one of them. So, we don't want to be commercialized, and we should make our best effort to prevent that from happening. Thank you.
The current village board has severely restricted citizens' ability to speak at village board meetings, such as no written handouts to the board. Number 2 would be items talked about. Oh, I think he's saying items talked about offered must be on the agenda. Other communities do not do so, are not so restrictive. What do you do on an issue? What would I do on an issue? Well, the handout deal, has to do if they accept them, then they have to put them on record somewhere, and I think that's why they don't like to have handouts. But if it's pertinent information, that would be a good one. Items can only be talked about that are on the agenda. That's kind of, I don't like that idea, because a citizen should be able to address the board for any issue it has that's not on the agenda. He would, like if you have a problem that week, well, you go to the board meeting, you can state your case there, and they should be able to listen to it at that time. I don't like that, just the agenda items. It's not a severe problem over there. Once in a while, if it's a hot item, it looks like you can spend an hour on public input, but most of the time there's 2-3 people talking. It's not an issue. They could take something like that. So it takes them another 15 minutes on the meeting. So what? Okay, thank you.
This question says the village spent $30,000 for a new audio system in 2008 so that the village board meetings and so on could be put up on the website. As of this date, they have not done so. What happened? And will you put the video of village meetings on the website? I'm not sure. As far as as much as I understand on this issue, it was up and running, and then for some reason it failed, and they so far haven't fixed it. And I think it's a great tool nowadays for people to be at home and still see what's going on at the meetings, and I would definitely make sure that system got fixed and up and running so the people can be informed without having to travel to the meetings. Thank you.
Two really great ones, but I'm going to start with this one. For those households west of 175, would they still be responsible financially, and in Perrin they have taxes, to support sewer and water if it got brought in? Simplest answer to that is this. If sewer and water comes into the village of Richfield, everybody's going to pay for it. All right. Now, if you're connected to the sewer, you're going to have some sewer user charges associated with that. All right. That's kind of a given. But the village then needs to have personnel and equipment to support having a sewer collection system and or water distribution. That falls on everybody. And then what happens is somebody comes in, they want to develop, and they're just a little bit further west. You know, and if they could just have sewer and water there, they could build 12-unit apartment building, or, you know, something on that order. Okay, then you get a special use permit, and now you get that, as I referred to it in the last meeting, the camel's nose under the tent flap. Once it's here, you will never get rid of it, and everybody is going to wind up paying for it. Okay. Thank you.
I live on the east side of 175. My septic is old, borderline. Why wouldn't people like me now want sewer and water to come through? Would it increase or decrease my property value? Well, sewer, if you want to bring sewer in, you would have that option if it ever comes into Richfield. You just have to petition it and then they can make it happen. Would be 5-10 years whenever they can get it in there. That's like if anybody asks for water, the same thing. But you might want to start with the DNR to see if you can clean up your system. I don't know if they do. I don't know if the old ways are still work yet, where they can acid them out or whatever it is on borderline. But mine's 35 years old and I don't have any problems with it. Huh? I know. Well, knock on wood. Well, every time the guy comes to pump it, you know, he's got a new guy on there. He says, "What's this hard stuff on top?" He's not used to those kind. He's used to the sloppy ones that got the water running all over the place. So, yeah. But it did take something to get that going. I mean, once I re-yeasted it and got it going, I left my, you got to be a little more careful with septics in this area. The city people just don't realize it. Would it increase or decrease my property value? It would probably increase it, but remember, it's probably going to cost you $10,000 to $20,000 to hook it up to your house, just from the street in.
Who moves in next door? Depends on who moves in next door.
Oh, whatever.
After it's in.
Yeah, after it's in.
Big apartment house next to your place.
Well, that could be too. Well, you still have to pay for it from the street to your house, no matter what. And that's going to cost you some money. So it might go up. Well, if sewer does come in the area, you could double your land value real easily, and the rest of us will have to pay for it. That's all I can think on this one here.
Doesn't anybody realize that once you have sewer and water, what do? They increase. So you could be paying $300-400 every quarter when you have it. They just keep upping it, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, that's when we did. I did that survey on Lake Landon. It's even if you don't have sewer in, you're still getting assessed $365 for the sewer that's in Landon. I guess Lisbon had the same thing, but that only has a sunset clause in it. But it isn't that big of a deal. But it's still a sewer assessment charge, even though you'll never hook up to sewer. But once it's in, you're going to be paying. And then also you're going to have clean water fees too. There's fees that are going to be involved with this then too that you're going to be paying for. That's not a tax, it's a fee. So you don't have to worry about that. Your taxes won't go up, your fees will just go up.
This card has 2 questions on it, so I'll try to answer them as best as I can. Are they still planning an on-off ramp at Hubertus Road? And I'm thinking it must be Hubertus Road and 41 or Freistadt Road. It actually is Freistadt Road and 41. There's nothing that I know about that's going on there. And the other part is, why are we putting a public boat launch on Bark Lake? There are already enough boats on the lake. And as far as I know, it's a DNR issue and not a village issue. So that's all I know about that.
I want to thank everybody for their patience. This is going, what would happen for the Aurora Hospital? Could that be stopped if sewer and water is turned down? Okay. First of all, a hospital is not ever going to come into any community if they do not have municipal sewer and water. So, if sewer and water is not there, they're not coming. The roundabout by the school, if that goes ahead, how are they going to handle that, or are they going to close the school buses? I'm assuming that we're talking about the roundabout on 175 in Holy Hill Road. That's a big bone of contention, because it's against the Americans with Disabilities Act. Because traffic never stops. and you have, I don't want to necessarily call it an attractive nuisance, it's an attractive business across 175, you got the Dairy Queen. And you've got kids that cross both 167 and 175, some of them walk to and from school. If traffic never stops, you're putting them at great risk. I would make my very, very best effort to spike that project just because of those issues. It would make it extraordinarily difficult for buses to get in and out when they're bringing kids to school and then taking them back home. So that's one of those issues that really needs to go. We need to go back to the state, because 175 is a state project, and tell them, you know what can we do to, amend that project, do something, put a traffic light in there, something that protects the children and allows safe transport and safe movement on the buses.
There's a rumor that our village administrator receives more compensation, substantially more, than like-sized villages. That's true. It is public record. Citizens of Richfield deserve to know accurate information. Now, yes, it is public record, but the best way to find out for, I don't know what meeting, you gotta go back in the minutes of the meeting. And then they went into closed session. I don't know if that was in January or what, and then they gave a bonus of $4,000 or something. I don't know what though, but that's kind of on the audio. I mean, it's a little hodgepodge. I tell you the truth, I haven't read all the minutes of when that happened, but I know it's in. They came out and approved the raise for the village administrator, or bonus is maybe not a raise, but this year his salary is substantially more. Because I did check 3 villages, and 80,000. Some of them are 84,000 with benefits. Some of them are 80,000 without benefits. He's at close to 100,000 without benefits, 134 with benefits. So. You could find it on the village website. It should be on the village website, and you might have to get audio copy or just call up Jim Healy, and he'll get you an audio copy of the minutes and you got to listen to it. And they came out of the meeting when they talked about it. That's all I know about that. Okay, thank you.
This question says, do you believe that some Richfield business owners and developers receive preferential consideration from the current board? And how do you feel about that? I don't have any proof that happens, but it sometimes seems like, it leans one way or the other. And I think if any new developers come in, they should have to follow the same rules and regulations as any developer that's been here for 20 years, and the one that's been here for 20 years should follow the same rules as the new ones. And possibly if we had some new developers come in, we might get some new ideas that would lead us in a better direction than sticking with the same old. So, thank you.
Okay, we're back to that reserve fund. Okay, what would you want in the reserve fund? And would we then need to borrow money when the need arises? Right, so if we use, let's just take a budget of $3.5 million and say that we're going to put 20% in reserve. That's $700,000 that's in the reserve fund for immediate needs of something catastrophic that might happen that's not covered by insurance. That's the best way I can kind of phrase that. As far as borrowing the money when the need arises, I'm going to go back to that ordinance. That ordinance allows them to spend 0.5% of the property values across the village of Richfield. That dollar amount is $5.5 million. So right now, the board has the authority, without any input from anybody in the village, to commit to $5.5 million in expenditures. So they've already authorized themselves that authority. So, and they'd have to borrow it. If it was a public works project of that magnitude, yes, they'd have to borrow it. So the question, I had a couple of phone calls over the last couple of weeks from individuals, and they said, and I don't necessarily disagree with the fact they say, I kind of like having that money there, and we all like to have that safety net, even in our personal lives. And we don't necessarily want the village to have to, dip too deeply into that. But my question to both of the callers was, give me a scenario where you believe that the village would have to spend $2.5 million, or $2 million, or $1.5 million. What kind of catastrophe, what event can you think of that would put us in that situation? Personally, I can't think of it. But they have the authority to spend the money right now, and I'd like to alter that to a very fixed sum of money at a much, much lower level than $5.5 million. Thank you.
Sewer and water issues. If we had sewer and water, would we be able to tap into Lake Michigan? I don't know. No, they'd probably end up with wells. But I know this, last year Germantown started a committee for sizing of pipes up to 41 of sewer and water pipes for more usage. So I don't know where that is, but I know they started a committee on it. But I don't think we get, Lake Michigan would be available, might be available for the people east of 175 basically, because that's where the Continental Divide is. And that goes to Lake Michigan, and the Fox River is the other side of it. So, but Richfield could become a bridge community too. That's in the state statutes. You could do that too, but I think that's too much of a headache. But a good lawyer probably figured out how to do it. So, okay, thank you.
This one says, how do you repeal the MWS ordinance? As far as I understand it, the board could just rescind the ordinance, and that would end it. Thank you.
This is the, once again, getting back to the camel's nose in the tent flap. Fire hydrants in Reflections Village. Why? Okay. You can't support fire hydrants without municipal sewer and water. I'm sorry. You cannot put in a municipal well, residential well, that'll supply the volume and pressure of water that's needed to support a fire truck. This is one of the things that I've been pointing to for a number of years that says, you guys have this in mind. Because when you get a concentration of homes, I mean, you're talking about homes built on city building lots. You're talking 4 homes per acre. I lived on a 75 by 140 lot in Milwaukee. I couldn't wait to get out of there. I can't even imagine why somebody would want to move out to the village of Richfield and live in a city building lot. But that's me. So, my point with that is,